somewhat. The delays are from State Road 49 to State Road 149, with truck fire cleanup occupying the right lane. 8094 looks good. It's 15 minutes eastbound, 14 westbound, the toll road to the Bishop Ford Freeway. Inbound Kennedy Expressway, the drive time O'Hare to downtown is 18 minutes, outbound 19, little heavy on westbound 190. Inbound Eisenhower, 25 minutes, 390 to downtown, outbound 24. Stevenson, 23 minutes from the Veterans Memorial Tollway to DeSable Lakeshore Drive, outbound 22. Inbound Ryan gets heavy from the Stevenson to the Burns Circle, 16 minutes, 95th to downtown. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Heavy thunderstorms could crop up this afternoon. High 83, cloudy, humid, couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm overnight, low 69. Currently 73 at O'Hare. Next news at 7, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, former Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass. Get his work at johncassnews.com. You also get his Chicago Way podcast there. And we were talking about journalistic ethics at CNN. Yeah, exactly. That is a punchline. But it's not just the Step Brothers routine we bore witness to with, who would John C. Reilly play? Chris Cuomo or Andy Cuomo? Andy. I don't know.
John C. Reilly, fact, he lived next to my Uncle Chris and Sandra in Market Park. My Thea Sandra had a broken English, and she would always call them, the Reilly boys, hamburger and hot dog.
That's great. Well, yeah, that's right. I forgot he's a Chicagoan.
Right.
So maybe John C. Reilly plays Chris, and Will Ferrell plays Andy.
Like Step Brothers.
Yeah,
like,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Educational.
So we
just leave the scene about the drums out.
We had that, but that's not the only example of CNN's journalistic ethic, if you will. They're going back old school to the sort of ambush journalism we're used to in Chicago with little Pam Zeckman running down the street chasing somebody. This is Randy Kay, CNN, being sent down to Florida to track down a doctor named Joseph Mercola, who had the audacity to deviate from leftist orthodoxy on COVID and suggest that masks might not be that effective and there is some risk associated with the vaccines. That's not me saying those are the things he said. That's CNN. That was good enough to dispatch Randy Kay to show up at his office, then track him down at his home, then find him riding shirtless on his bicycle.
Next stop, more than 220 miles away, Ormond Beach, Florida, which Dr. Mercola calls home. We found his house behind a large gate and tried making contact through the security access pad.
Hello, this is Randy Kay from CNN. I'm hoping to get a word with Dr. Mercola.
Later, we spotted Joseph Mercola riding his bicycle. Once he stopped, we thought this was our opening to get some answers as to why he's pushing false claims about masks and the vaccine.
How are you? I'm Randy Kay with CNN. Can we ask you a couple questions? We just want to talk to you about vaccines and what you've been saying about them. Do you feel responsible for people who didn't get vaccinated, possibly got sick and died because of what you told them about the vaccines? What do you say to families who lost loved ones?
Who's she
Are
talking?
you spreading misinformation? Why won't you speak to us?
She's asking him questions while he rides away.
She's starring in her own movie. And by the way, Pam Zeckman, I think, was a good reporter and didn't chase people to politically harass them like this one is.
Okay, fair enough.
This one is doing the ideological lash. She's like the inquisitor.
Well, and it's journalism in quotation marks. It's not just to make a point to Joseph Mercola. It's to make a point to anybody in the medical community who
we will
deviates.
come after you.
Right. We'll show up at your office. We'll follow you. We'll ask these questions. We'll ask questions.
We'll put your home on national television so everyone can see.
Yeah, and it's not asking questions. We're assigning blame in the form of a question.
Right.
Don't you feel bad for the people that you killed because you said there are some adverse outcomes to the vaccine, or you said, well, there's all these studies that suggest that most of the masks that most people wear are completely without point. I mean, these are facts, but they're not.
N95 masks may work,
N95.
and whatever. The others don't.
Well, but yeah, and right, and epidemiologists like Michael Osterholm, who's Chuck Todd's favorite epidemiologist, have said as much. But that's not the orthodoxy. That's not mask, vaccine. Nothing else is acceptable. And let this be known that we have our henchmen in the D.C. press corps that can be dispatched to disrupt your life if you decide you want to be, publicly skeptical about some of the claims being made by our TV doctors and fungible automatons at these quote unquote news desks.
In the block near Montrose and Lawndale, 4300 North. My dog Zeus did his business on the Parkway. I was leaning over during the year, and a woman to pick it up, and a woman, I don't want to say Karen, started yelling at me,
accusing you that you had done your business.
Of putting I had to put my mask on while I'm picking up the dog do, and I was like, "Bleep you, madam."
Right. Well, for more on this and a few other topics, please be joined again by Michael Warren Davis, contributor to The American Conservative, author of the forthcoming book, The Reactionary Mind. M.W. Davis, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you very much.
How about Randy Kaye? The Cuomo brothers. These examples of what passes for journalism and the going where the facts lead in the era of COVID.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I drove through Connecticut yesterday, and people were wearing face masks. And I live in New Hampshire. We haven't worn face masks for at least 6 months. I didn't know that this was still an issue in other parts of the world. You poor people, we're doing just fine.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a hermit.
Yeah. Well, right. This is the genius of the founders and our 50 laboratories, I suppose. But seriously, the COVID culture, as we're hearing, of course, not just about the Delta variant now, but Francis Collins talking about other variants that could be, more lethal than the Delta variant, and so on and so forth. The unwillingness to let this go.
Yeah, the only reason that they allowed the pandemic to close was because Joe Biden decided to close it. I think probably Republicans were a little bit unwise to go along with it so quickly. I understand that they wanted to reopen the country as they should, but now it was obviously nothing changed when Joe Biden took the oath of office. The pandemic didn't magically come to a close. So what we're seeing now is not a new wave. It's the same thing that was already happening, except the liberal media has allowed us to erect this wall in our minds that say that Joe Biden fixed the first pandemic, but now we have a second pandemic that we need to. We can we obviously have to blame the Republicans for this pandemic as well, and then we have to use all the power at the available to the state to bring it to an end. I don't think that this is a separate event. I think that this is just the natural progression of a novel virus. As to whether a more lethal strain will evolve, that's possible. It's entirely possible, but that's generally not how viruses work. The Delta variant is more contagious. It's more communicable, but it's less deadly, and that's generally how the life cycle of a virus works. It doesn't want to kill its host. because the more of its host that it kills, the less likely it is to survive and to propagate and to pass itself on to a new host. So if it would be with a biogenetically engineered virus like COVID, of course it's possible that it would get more lethal, but you'd have to check in with Dr. Fauci on that. He
right.
Yeah,
right.
He might deny everything.
He very well might.
I wanted to get you to expound on this column you wrote. Delete your Prime account now. Delete your Amazon Prime account now. In that you say, if you're wondering why conservatives always lose, it's why we'll go on losing until the last Bible-thumping, MAGA-hatted redneck in Georgia dyes his hair blue, cuts off his penis, and starts calling himself Cheryl. We deserve to lose, and when we do, we'll have no one to blame but ourselves. So why do conservatives lose? Why are we losing? And why do we have no one to blame but ourselves?
Well, I'm 27 years old, and when I was 26 last year, at the ripe old age, I decided to retire from the media because I was done. I realized that I wasn't doing any good to anyone. That's not to say that, folks, both of you do very good work. I just wasn't doing any good to anyone because I realized that for way too many of us conservatives, especially the ones that are sort of plugged in politically, the media becomes a crutch. It creates the illusion of action. We read articles, we listen to the radio. Again, things that absolutely we must do. And we feel like because we're staying informed, because we're posting articles on Twitter, we're arguing with leftists, we're owning the libs, we feel like we've accomplished something. And that false sense of accomplishment that you get from watching Fox News, from getting into Twitter debates, Facebook debates, arguing with coworkers over the water filter, those are illusions. Those are illusions that create that trick us into thinking that we've done our part. That's not true. And the truth is, and there are all kinds of books that have been written on this. If anyone needs convincing, books like Rod Dreher's new book, Live Not by Lies. I have a book coming out, The Reactionary Mind, that talks about this. We for conservatives, and especially for conservative Christians, we are the powers that be are aligned so strongly against us that we, to simply read news articles, watch television, even vote, is not nearly going to be enough. We are the only way that we can defeat the left, which wants to destroy us and our values and our way of life, is to live a totally countercultural lifestyle. We have to subvert the economy as it exists now, because this late consumer capitalist economy that we have is the engine of progressivism. It is fueling the people that are trying to destroy us, and Amazon is a prime example of it. No pun intended. Yeah, Amazon right. is a perfect example of a real evil corporation, the kind that the left have been warning us about for 100 years. Only it's one of theirs. It's a left-wing corporation. And the point of the article that you're talking about, that I wrote, is that we have to do more than simply talk. We have to act. We have to live according to the values that we espouse. And that means that we cannot keep lining the pockets of left-wing plutocrats like Jeff Bezos. We have to send our business elsewhere. If we're not willing to do that, then we don't really believe in what we say, and we do deserve to lose.
I agree, but I want people to watch Black Robe, the movie, before they cancel their account. But are you asking for like some sort of Benedict option? Are you asking for a retreat or an engagement?
Well, I'm asking for a Benedict option, but not a retreat. Those are two fundamentally opposite courses of action. What Rod Dreher says, the Benedict option, which I think is an absolutely prophetic book, is that tradition, community is something that's lived. It's not something that we can communicate through articles, through books. Our faith, our American way of life, is a tradition, and it has to be lived. It has to be passed on alive. It's like a fire. When it goes out, it's out forever. You have to pass it on as it is. And the only way that we can do that is by living and raising our children in community with other Christians, other conservatives. You see the effects of when conservatives refuse to change their lifestyle, when they allow themselves to go on living a sort of a comfortable, secularist, liberal lifestyle. You see exactly what happens. Over 3 generations, their faith disappears. Their children become perfectly secularized, progressive liberals. Because the television, popular music, Hollywood, the public education system, these things all inculcate them with left-wing values. And it just takes 1 or 2 or at most 3 generations for these instruments of mainstream culture to destroy conservative Christian values that we try to pass on to our sons and daughters.
But wait.
So unless
let me push back a little bit this way. So why can't somebody avail themselves of the lowest cost provider of some good or service in a free market economy? Not that ours is, but something approximating it. But then also still retain an understanding of their place in the cosmos and their relationship between the Almighty and the values they want to see inculcated in their kids and so on and so forth. I mean, I watch Amazon Prime. I consume all kinds of popular media and so on and so forth, and have since I was a kid. But because of my parents and because of my education, and it was private school, I'll add Catholic school, that I can enjoy some of what is offered from Hollywood or from the arts community, but also be able to separate the truly artistic from the dreck and see the agenda that's trying to be advanced and resist. Yeah, but what am I, superhuman? I'm just a guy.
But children in that environment can't.
Well, I was a child too. I was a child before I was an adult, and I was consuming the same content from the same places then too. It maybe wasn't as ubiquitous. It's become more sexualized and so on and so forth. But it was still, of a degree. It was just not as far down the road as we are today. And so why, is that you have limited means, and so you want the lowest cost provider. Sometimes you'll buy a premium product. But you can do all of that and live on this mortal coil with all of its flaws and still read C.S. Lewis and Chesterton and retain your sense of proportion with respect to the individual and society and the Almighty. Why is that not possible?
When you shop at Amazon, and when I shop at Amazon, when you watch the latest Marvel film, etc., you are lining the pockets of the Democratic National Committee, because that is who these big business plutocrats are sending their money to. That is, those are the liberal values that Hollywood espouses are being inculcated in every child that goes to the movie theater to see the new Captain America or Avengers movie. And when we give consent to that, we actively support not only the political machine, but the propaganda apparatus that surrounds it in the media when we patronize it, when we allow it into our homes. Again, that you talk about, the free market economy. I would argue that, that what we are seeing right now is that the highly, as you say, the highly concentrated, the highly regulated capitalist economy that we have, that is absolutely wedded to state power, is tending naturally in the direction of secular liberalism. That's why all the richest men in America, almost to a man, are left wing. And so it is their economy. They own the economy in the same way they own the government. And we are, and by purchasing from them instead of by supporting small local businesses, we are fueling their regime.
Michael Warren Davis, contributor to the American Conservative, author of the forthcoming book, The Reactionary Mind. M.W. Davis, always good to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. God bless.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have school-age children, then you're thinking about summertime, not back-to-school season. But before you know it, it'll be time to go back to school. Can you say with confidence you know what school will look like for your child this fall? Will they be back in the classroom 5 days a week? What about masks? Well, thousands of private school students were in person in school for this past school year, and will be again next year. If you've ever thought about private school but didn't think